Hi, my name is Elizabeth Howard. I'm 25 years old, and I work as the head of marketing at an import-export company. And for years, I was the most reliable thing in my parents' house. Not the walls, not the furniture, not even the electricity. Me. I was the one who paid on time, the one who never complained, the one who always stepped in before things became a problem. At first, I didn't think much of it. I was the oldest daughter. I had a stable job. I lived at home to save money and help out. So I did. I paid rent every month, covered groceries, handled utilities, bought appliances when something broke. No one asked me to, and I never kept score. Because back then, I believed something very simple. My parents raised me. Helping them was just what a good daughter did. That belief lasted until it didn't. It started 9 months ago, 1 week after I was promoted. I remember that night clearly, too clearly. Dinner had just ended. Plates were stacked in the sink. The TV was off. My mother asked everyone to stay in the living room. Her tone already made my shoulders tense. 5 minutes later, I was sitting alone in the armchair. My younger sister Grace was on the couch beside Mom, holding her daughter, Nora. My father stayed at the dining table, eyes locked on his phone, not once looking up. Mom cleared her throat. Then she looked directly at me. "Starting this month," she said calmly, "your rent will go up from $1,000 to $2,000. I paused. Not because of the number, but because of how easily she said it. Like it had already been decided, like I'd just missed the memo. I kept my voice steady. Why? I've been paying everything on time. Before my mother could answer, Grace cut in. "You just got a raise and a promotion," she said, still not looking at me. "You can afford to help more." I looked at her. Just the day before, she'd borrowed my laptop without asking and left it on the dining table like it was hers. And before I could even respond, she added, "And honestly, you should give Nora an extra $500 a month anyway. She's your niece." Something inside me went quiet. Because suddenly, it all made sense. This wasn't a request. It was a role assignment. I was the provider. They were the dependents. And somehow, that was supposed to be my place. I turned to Grace and asked calmly, "When did it become normal for you to walk into my room without asking? To use my things? Or to feel entitled to know how much I make?" She finally looked at me. No embarrassment, no shame. Just irritation. "We're family," she said. "Why shouldn't I know? Or are you scared we'll find out you could pay more and just don't want to share?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I could not believe how casually she said something so unreasonable. Then my mother spoke. Her voice dipped into that familiar tone, half guilt, half justification. "I'm getting older," she said. "I can't earn like I used to. Grace doesn't have a job. She's raising a child alone." She looked at me carefully. "You're the oldest. You're in the best position. I thought you'd understand." Something cold settled in my chest. I spoke slowly. "I've always helped, but the moment help becomes an expectation, that's not family anymore." My mother sat up straighter, locked eyes with me. "No sugarcoating," she said sharply. "You got a raise. You have to share it." That was it. I stayed calm, but my decision was already forming. "If that's how you all see it," I said, "then starting next month, I'm moving out." Silence. Then my father finally spoke, without looking at me. "Go wherever you want," he said. "But if you walk out of this house, don't ever come back." And in that moment, it hit me. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their wallet. I stood up, walked back to my room. And that night, even though my body was exhausted, I didn't sleep at all. Because one thought kept repeating in my mind. When did being responsible start costing me my place in my own family? The next morning, the house looked the same. Same curtains, same chipped paint near the hallway corner, same smell of my mom's instant coffee drifting through the kitchen like it always had. But something had shifted. Not in them, in me. Because once you hear your own value reduced to a number, you can't unhear it. I woke up early like I always did, quietly got dressed, and stepped out of my room. The hallway floor creaked under my feet, and for a second I held my breath, like I was the guest, not the daughter who paid half the life inside these walls. My mom was at the stove with her back to me, making breakfast. She didn't turn around. No good morning, no eye contact. Not even that forced politeness people use when they're mad but still want to look reasonable. Just silence. A silence that didn't feel peaceful. It felt strategic, like everyone was waiting to see if I would crack first. So I left, earlier than usual. In the car, I rolled down the window and let cold air hit my face. It was the kind of air that makes you feel awake, even if you haven't slept. My hands stayed tight on the steering wheel. I kept thinking about what my dad said. Don't ever come back. He didn't say it like a warning. He said it like a threat that would only matter if I still needed them. And I realized something that made my stomach twist. They really believed I was trapped. That no matter what they demanded, I'd stay, because I always had. I wasn't always paying $1,000. When I first moved back home after graduating college, I did it for practical reasons. My job was close, 15 minutes away, and I wanted to save money, help out, be present. My parents agreed quickly, almost too quickly. But they set a condition. You can live here, my mom said then, but you need to contribute, just $500 a month. Food, utilities, household things. It sounded fair. It was cheaper than rent anywhere else, and I thought, this is normal adult responsibility. So I agreed without hesitation. For 1 year, it stayed like that. Then one night, my parents sat me down again. My mother held her hands together like she was praying. We're getting older, she said. We can't earn like we used to. If you can contribute a bit more, it would help. And just like that, $500 became $1,000. No extra space, no extra respect, no change in how the house functioned. Just more money from me. At the time, I was making around $60,000 a year after taxes. And I didn't argue, because back then, I still believed in sacrifice as proof of love. I believed being a good daughter meant swallowing discomfort quietly. That belief stayed intact until Grace came back. Grace is my younger sister. 1 year ago, she moved back into our parents' house after her divorce. And she didn't come alone. She brought Nora. Nora was 3 then. Tiny, loud, curious, full of energy that never seemed to run out. She wasn't the problem. The problem was that no one asked me. No one even told me until it was already done. I found out the way you find out the power's been shut off, by walking into the consequences. I came home from work that day and there were suitcases in the living room. Toys. A stroller. And Grace standing in the kitchen, acting like she'd been there forever. Mom smiled like this was a happy reunion. Dad barely acknowledged it. And Grace didn't even look at me when she said, "Oh, hey," like I was the visitor. Like this wasn't also my home. My home that I was still paying for. After Grace arrived, the house stopped feeling like a place I could breathe. Toys spread across the floor like landmines. From the living room to the hallway, it was impossible to walk without stepping on something plastic and sharp. Every day had noise. Crying, screaming, Nora yelling, Grace yelling louder. The bathroom was constantly wet, towels thrown around like nobody cared if mold grew in the corners. The washing machine ran nonstop, 3, sometimes 4 loads a day. And most of it wasn't mine. Grace took over the kitchen the way a conqueror claims territory. Her spices, her bottles, Nora's snack containers, little plastic forks, tiny sippy cups, everything everywhere. My shelves disappeared, so I started ordering takeout. Not because I wanted to waste money, but because there was no longer a clean, quiet space to make my own food. What bothered me the most wasn't even the mess. It was the way my space became optional, especially when I tried to work. I sometimes worked from home, and I'd sit in my room with my door shut, headphones on, laptop open, trying to focus while the house erupted outside. But sound doesn't respect closed doors. Nora would cry. Grace would shout. My mom would chase after her. Something would slam. Someone would stomp, and then, inevitably, Nora would knock. Aunt Elizabeth, Aunt Elizabeth. The first few times I smiled, but eventually it started happening in the middle of meetings. Once I was on a video call with my boss, camera on, presentation on screen, and Nora burst into my room. She didn't knock that time. She just pushed the door open like she owned it. I froze, mortified, trying to keep my voice steady while my boss watched a child climb onto my bed. I had to end the call early. Afterwards, I went to Grace. I tried to be calm. Hey, I really need you to make sure Nora doesn't come into my room when I'm working. Grace didn't even apologize. She's just a kid, she said, like that explained everything. Can't you be more understanding? Understanding. That word became a weapon in our house. It meant stop having boundaries. So I started working out of coffee shops. Not because I liked it, because it was the only way I could get silence. The invasion didn't stop at shared space. It crept into the things that were mine. One day my headphones disappeared from my desk. I found them in the living room the next day, completely dead. My coffee machine, the one I bought with my own money, was now sitting next to Nora's baby bottles, used by everyone like it belonged to the household. Even the Wi-Fi router I installed for work. Grace unplugged it and moved it into her room so it wouldn't lag. And my Netflix account? It used to have one profile. Now it had 3 unfamiliar names, cartoons, reality shows, and a password change I didn't authorize. That was when I bought a lock for my cabinet. Just a small one. Something simple. A quiet way to protect what I paid for. My mom noticed immediately. She stared at the lock like it was an insult. Why would you do that? She asked bluntly. This is a family home. That creates distance. Distance. As if I hadn't already been pushed miles away emotionally. I didn't argue. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because by then I was beginning to understand something painful. They didn't want closeness. They wanted access. About a month after that, I barely wanted to come home at all. After work, I stayed late at the office. I told myself it was productivity, but really I was just stretching time, trying to delay walking back into that chaos. Some nights I drove aimlessly for hours with music low, just to feel like I had control over something. On Fridays, I crashed at a friend's place. On weekends, I was rarely home. Sometimes I claimed work emergencies. Other times I said the company needed me. No one questioned me. No one asked where I went. No one seemed to care. And that was the part that cut the deepest. Because it proved my suspicion. Whether I was there or not, didn't change anything for them. As long as my money stayed. Then, 3 months later, it happened. I got the raise. I got officially promoted. It was the moment I'd been working toward for a long time. Late nights, pressure, endless deadlines. I should have felt celebrated. I should have felt proud. And I did, quietly. Not because of the title, but because it meant my future was opening. That night, I opened my finance spreadsheet and started planning seriously. Not a mansion, not luxury, just a tiny place. A quiet place. A place where no one could walk into my room and act like my life belonged to them. I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends. Not my family. I wanted this dream to stay clean and untouched until it became real. But I forgot something. Privacy didn't exist in that house, because Grace had already found out. She'd gone through my email while using my laptop, without asking. And the moment she knew, the house changed. Not with congratulations. Not with pride. But with a family meeting. A demand. A rent increase. A new responsibility assigned to me like a collar around my neck. And now, after my threat to move out, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Like a predator waiting to see if the prey would run. At lunch the next day, instead of eating with coworkers, I found an empty corner in the office and opened my laptop. I typed in keywords like they were spells. 1 bedroom, quiet neighborhood, pet-friendly, near work. Listings popped up. Photos of clean spaces, private kitchens, sunlight through windows, rooms that looked like they had never heard someone shout, "You have to share it." My chest tightened in a way that surprised me. Not fear, hope. I bookmarked 3 places. And I promised myself something I'd never said out loud before. This weekend, I'm going. Because this time it wasn't a threat. It was a plan. And plans don't need permission. By the time Saturday came, I was ready. Not emotionally, because I don't think you're ever truly ready to admit you're planning an escape from your own family, but practically. And practicality had always been my strength. I woke up early, before the house stirred. Grace's door was still closed. Nora's toys lay scattered where they'd been abandoned the night before. The television screen reflected my silhouette as I passed through the living room, careful not to make a sound. I grabbed my keys. No explanations, no notes. Just me and a quiet promise I'd made to myself. The weather was mild that day. Sunlight filtered through the windshield as I drove, and for the first time in months, my thoughts felt clear instead of tangled. I had 3 addresses written down. The first apartment was fine, technically. Clean, well lit, but too far from work. I pictured the commute and felt my shoulders tense. The second was close and affordable, but cramped. The furniture was worn. The walls felt like they leaned in too close. Then there was the third. The moment I stepped inside, something in me exhaled. It was a 1-bedroom unit on the ground floor, tucked into a quiet residential neighborhood, the kind where cars didn't honk and no one yelled through open windows. Sunlight spilled through large glass doors. Hardwood floors gleamed softly beneath my feet. The kitchen was small but organized, everything in its place. And the silence. God, the silence. No crying, no shouting, no doors slamming. Just space. Just peace. The rent was $600 a month. I didn't hesitate. I paid the deposit right there. Signed the lease with hands that were steady, not shaking like I'd expected. As I walked back to my car, something strange happened. I smiled. Not the polite smile I wore at family dinners. A real one. I didn't tell anyone. Not because I was afraid of their reaction, but because I didn't want to negotiate my freedom. I knew if I said something, they'd try to stop me. Not with logic. With guilt. With tears. With stories about sacrifice and family and responsibility, and I was too tired for another performance. So I started moving quietly. Every morning, I woke up earlier than usual, before Nora's footsteps, before my mom's coffee, before Grace's TV. I packed small things first. My laptop, personal documents, important files, a few sets of clothes. I loaded them into my trunk and drove to work like it was just another normal day. No one noticed. No one questioned why my room looked emptier. Mom was busy with Nora. Grace was glued to her phone. Dad barely looked up from his screen. It was almost funny how invisible I'd become. By the end of the week, everything that mattered to me was already gone. Every essential part of my life now existed somewhere else. And on the day I moved the final box, I didn't go back. I drove straight to my new apartment, unlocked the door with a key that still smelled like metal, and stepped inside. The place was empty. No furniture yet, no decorations, no memories. Just quiet. I stood there for a long moment, letting it settle into my bones. This was mine. No one would move my things. No one would touch my belongings. No one would walk in without permission. I slept on the floor that night, and it was the best sleep I'd had in years. 2 days passed. No calls, no texts, no messages asking where I was. It felt like I'd vanished, like I'd been erased from that house without anyone noticing. On the third day, just before noon, my phone rang. Mom. I stared at the screen for a long second before answering. Where are you? She asked. No concern, no worry. Just confusion. I rented a place, I said calmly. I won't be coming back to live there. Silence. Then her voice sharpened. What do you mean you just left? You didn't say anything. You just disappeared. If I'd told you, I replied, you would have tried to stop me, and I don't have the energy for another argument. That's when her tone shifted. Is this how you treat your family? She snapped. Your sister is struggling. I'm getting old. You think you can just live alone and forget about us? My hand tightened around the phone, but my voice stayed even. I've been paying most of the bills for years. Did you ever ask if I was okay? Or did you just see my paycheck and assume I could handle everything? She didn't soften. Instead, her words turned colder. She's a single mother. She needs support. If you don't take care of her, then who will? I swallowed. I'm her sister, I said quietly, not her bank. Another pause. Then, final and sharp. Fine. If you've left, then stay gone. Don't come back to this house again. I breathed out slowly. I wasn't planning to, and I hung up. For the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. A week later, Grace called. Her voice sounded rushed. Mom's sick, she said. She's been in bed all day. She hasn't eaten anything. Something about it felt wrong. Too sudden, too convenient. But I agreed to stop by after work. That evening, the sky was gray when I pulled into the driveway. The house looked the same, but when I stepped inside, it felt empty. Too quiet. The TV was off, no toys on the floor, no Nora running toward me. Mom lay on the couch with a blanket pulled up, eyes half closed. Grace sat beside her, concern written on her face, but it felt rehearsed. I walked closer. Mom? She opened her eyes. Too alert, too aware. I sat down. How are you feeling? I'm fine, she sighed. Just tired, been thinking. Grace jumped in immediately. We just wanted to talk. Mom didn't know how else to reach you. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't a sick visit. This was a setup. And I had walked straight into it. I sat there on the edge of the couch, hands folded in my lap, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. It was the same sound I'd heard every night growing up, but now it felt like background music to a lie. Mom shifted under the blanket, then slowly sat up. Not the way someone does when they're weak or dizzy, but carefully, deliberately, like she was preparing to deliver a line she'd already rehearsed. She smoothed the edge of the blanket and looked straight at me. If $2,000 is too much, she said softly, then fine. Starting next month, pay $1,500. I didn't answer right away. I looked at her. Then I turned to Grace. She was staring down at Nora, gently patting her back as the child slept. She didn't look up, didn't react, didn't defend or deny anything. I waited. What about Grace? I asked calmly. Silence. Not a pause. A choice. My mom didn't respond. Grace kept her eyes on Nora, suddenly fascinated by the rhythm of her breathing. The room felt heavy. That silence told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about compromise. This was about getting me back into position. I stood up. If you want me to come back, I said evenly, then Grace pays $1,500 too. Same amount. No exceptions. I looked at both of them. No one moved. No one spoke. Not because they were shocked, but because they never intended to be fair. And in that moment, something inside me finally snapped into place. They didn't miss me. They missed the money. I left the house without another word. The sky outside had darkened, clouds hanging low like they were holding their breath. I sat in my car for a moment before starting the engine, staring at the familiar front door. I realized something then. This was the first time I'd ever walked away from my family without looking back. And it didn't break me. It freed me. That night, I blocked every number. Mom, Grace, even Dad. Not out of anger, out of self-preservation. Because I knew, if I left even one door open, they'd find a way back in. Through guilt, through tears, through the version of family that had kept me drained for years. Weeks passed. Then months. 9 months to be exact. And I never went back. Not once. My life now is quiet. Deliberately quiet. The apartment isn't big, it's not fancy, the couch is secondhand, the dining table is small, but every inch of it belongs to me. From the coffee mug I use every morning to the Wi-Fi router, no one touches to the desk where I plan my future. Everything stays exactly where I leave it. I wake up early and make breakfast without interruption. I work without headphones pressed tight against my ears. On weekends, I invite friends over or spend entire evenings doing absolutely nothing, and no one demands an explanation. Every Friday night, I pick a movie and watch it from start to finish without someone talking over it or needing something from me. I save money. I breathe. I exist as a person, not a resource. I'm not telling this story to complain. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm sharing it because I know there are people listening who are still living in homes like the one I left, where silence is mistaken for agreement and kindness is twisted into obligation. If that's you, hear this. You are allowed to walk away. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not ungrateful for valuing yourself. And you are not wrong for refusing to become the financial support system just because you earn more. Family, real family, doesn't drain you dry. Love doesn't come with invoices. It's been 9 months. It could be 9 years. It could be forever. I don't regret it. I chose myself. And this time, I'm not looking back.